Thank you for checking out New Dice. Sorry about no video last week. Whole family under the weather with the stomach bug. But we're back this week. New video out. We're going to talk about this cup right here, what we're doing with that. Put a bow on last episode that was filmed a couple weeks ago. We'll read some comments on that. And then I had an observation for you Critical Role fans that can go out there to your D&D table that I wanted to talk about briefly at the end of the video. You can always look down at the timestamps below in the comments to move to where you need to go. Okay, what's going on with this? How can you bring this to your table? Is it going to work at mine? Let's talk about that. I had my first ever in-person D&D session as we kicked off our new campaign last Tuesday. It was awesome. Right now, there are 4 players at the table and me. We got together, had a great time playing, kicked off the campaign. I talked about that a little bit in my last video, and I want to talk about one of the things I'm adding to the table. This had been hinted about many, many episodes ago on this, but it's now in action. This is the One-derful Cup. Wonderful. The One-derful Cup of Inspiration, okay? O-N-E. Now, what's happening at our table? Well, anytime somebody rolls a 1 on a die, make a die roll, and a 1 pops up, it's a bummer feeling. It's not always the greatest. And you look at that die, you go, really? This is what you're going to do to me? I finally got to this moment. I'm excited to roll dice. And 1 came up. Come on. What's going on there? Well, here's how we're going to counter that a little bit. And this is where the discussion's going to come. But if you roll a 1, that dice goes into, or that die, or my version of that die, goes into the One-derful Cup. So you roll a d20 on an agility check, dexterity saving throw, and you roll a 1. That sucks. You fail. But you also have the option to take a d20 from my pile of dice, put them into the One-derful Cup. You make an attack, you roll 2d6, and you get 2 1s. You have the opportunity to put 2 d6 into this cup. Then what happens? Well, this cup is going to fill during the game, okay, with different style dies. Some d20s, some d6s, some d8s. You know what the dies are. I don't need to read them all off to you, but they're going to fill up with these die. And then eventually this cup's going to fill all the way up, and it's not going to be able to fit any more in it. And at that point, you can't put any more dice in there. But more importantly, this cup sits at the table. This cup sits right out there in front of everyone so they can see it. And at any moment during the session, or any session, if something happens and someone has a miserable roll at a crucial time, they can talk with the table and decide, we are going to roll the dice out of the One-derful Cup of Inspiration. And you then take this cup, boop, and you dump it out on the table. And you get to use the best version of the die you need a reroll on. So if you need a d20, you roll out all these die, and there could be a handful of different kinds of die. The best d20 roll that comes out of this cup is yours. You get to replace it straight up with the die you rolled. Let's say you just need 1 d6, but you've been filling this thing up with d6 over the course of a couple sessions or a session. You roll it out, and you can replace any of the die that you just rolled with any of the die that are the same dice in that cup, and you can create something a lot better. Hopefully. And that's what we're doing with it. And it's kind of fun. I think it's going to be a fun twist. One thing that concerns me a little bit, and I bring it up here, is that there is a miserable feeling that comes with rolling a 1. Especially on a d20 roll. It's a bummer. And you roll it, and it sucks. But part of me feels like that dread is needed because on the flip side, when you roll a nat 20, it just feels that much sweeter if you've rolled some 1s. Okay? So there is this part where you are eliminating this feeling of dread that can be countered. The other thing is, though, this is only going to not going to get rolled all the time. I do give the table a chance at the beginning of the night to tell me what happened in the previous session, and if they do a pretty good job, we're going to put a d20 in there for them just to start off. This cup is going to carry over from session to session until you roll it. When you roll it, it's empty of all die. So if you roll it for a d20 and there's a ton of d6 in here, it empties of everything. It starts fresh, and we start collecting die into the One-derful Cup of Inspiration. I think it's going to be fun. My characters have enjoyed it so far. We haven't rolled it yet. We only have 2 die in it so far, all right? And it was kind of fun in our first session we were doing some stealth stuff. The characters wanted to stealth around a little bit, and we had some nat ones rolled. And people were like, dang it, nat ones. Oh, and then they both remembered. Wait, does that mean we get to load up the cup? I said, sure do. You guys can both choose to put a die in there. They said, yeah, we want it. And the reason I say you can choose to is because if you're the only person who's attacking with D6, you might not want to selfishly fill this up with D6 all the time. And again, once it's filled up, you can't put any more dice in it. That's it. Okay, I'm sure it'll be rolled by then, but that would be the case. So if you roll a bunch of ones on D6s and you're like, I'm the only one who would use it, you might choose not to put them in. But it was really fun. I'd recommend it for your table. We really enjoyed it, and that's what we're going to be doing moving forward. So there you go. A little something from my table that hopefully you can throw into yours. I actually got this cup. The video that we talked about this was the dungeon box. I forget, dungeon in a box video that I made, and this was like a weird thing they put in there, but I found these. You can get these kind of things at a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's kind of situation. They had them there, and so you can go find yourself a little mini cup. I wouldn't get it too big. I would want it to be a little bit smaller so you can't fit as many die in it. You're welcome, though. Take it to your table. Throw it out there as a suggestion. I think it's going to be really fun. All right, let's put a bow on the last episode by reading some comments. I appreciate anyone who's leaving comments on these videos. That means the world to me. It's crazy that you're doing that. Thank you so much. We had a couple of them I wanted to read real quick. This is from Gaming Treasure Chest, okay? And the video was Help a New DM 1.0. It says, sounds like you're on the right track. We were talking about what I'm going to be doing at the game I ran on last Tuesday. Sounds like you're on the right track. There's nothing wrong with starting a campaign like that. I had a lot of options going on there. I ended up cutting it down to 2 options they could choose from. It's great to ask them what they, why they agreed to guard, which was great. I had them guard a caravan out to this remote location. They were all cool with it. Was it because they didn't want to, but really needed coin? Because they wanted to leave the big city for adventure? Plus, what is great about that start is they are already working together, so they have a little history. That worked out great. We had an 8-week trip that we recapped for the first 15 to 20 minutes of the session, and they talked about interacting during the trip and what people noticed about them on the trip. And were they really loud? Were they really quiet? It was really a great way to start the session. Goes on to say, so really sounds good. You can go pre-made world or homemade. That part is honestly what you feel more comfortable with. Shop-wise, now I haven't read this part yet. I need this. Shop-wise, it's always good to have a magic shop for items, books, potions, spells, would be a small one in a little village, and a blacksmith for options like armor and weapons. But honestly, with your passion and energy, you should have no problem, and you'll learn as you go. Wishing you all the best. Thank you, Gaming Treasure Chest. Means a lot. One thing I need to figure out, and if someone can comment on this before Tuesday night session, I had the characters protect this caravan from the big city into the rural area. It was an 8-week trip, and I realized, I'm like, and you guys get paid for this. And they're like, how much? I said, hold that thought, because I need to figure out how much gold is worth and how much you would get paid for an 8-week trip. So I've got to figure that out before Tuesday night, how much gold they got. If anyone has a barometer to that, that'd be great. From the Bard's College YT, one of my absolute favorite YouTube channels out there. I highly recommend going and watching the Bard's College YT, a great collaboration video they released last week. That was it was a spectacular collaboration video. Go check that out. Good interview. And it's well edited. It was like an interview, but it was like the interview was inserted into a video. It's good. Anyways, he says, I think you're more than on the right path. The campaign opening you described is perfect, giving your party a direction isn't railroading. Thank you. It's just it's just playing the game, and having multiple options to choose from is great. You definitely don't need a BBEG yet. You can always decide on that later. Maybe it's a dragon who wants revenge for the wormling they killed, or a necromancer the world away, or a necromancer world away. How things go may inform that decision. And for your world, I'd have an idea of what religion is like. Who are the gods? How are they viewed? I need to go through that. And the politics of the area. Who runs the town? What kingdom is in it? And what kind of place is it? Did a little bit of that. I'm just not good at politics at all. Just terrible at it on my table. Terrible. That's it. You can build the rest as you go. People overestimate how much you need. Figure out for a session 1. It's okay to have lots of blank spaces on the map. You got this. Thank you, the Bard's College unbelievable YouTuber. Crazy that he's commenting here. I will say I'm excited for our session 2 on Tuesday night. We stopped right as combat. We hit 9 o'clock. We played till 9. We hit 9 o'clock right as they walked into combat. I mean, it was like I had planned this out. I had not. But the way the table played out, they avoided a combat. It was great. They were very creative. The druid did speak with animals to get out of a combat. And then they kept going. I looked at the clock. I'm like, oh, we only have like 10 minutes left. And they kind of talked amongst themselves and continued on. And they walked right into the next fight, which is going to be a fight. And that was great because we finished with that cliffhanger. And they're all so excited because they're excited to use their characters in battle. And then we're going to get to do that on Tuesday night just to kick it off. It's going to be really fun. Okay, I wanted to talk about one thing I noticed just really quickly on this week's episode of Critical Role. For those of you who like it, join the club. I'm joining your club. And for those of you who hate it, well, this is not about the actual story or what you think of this season or any of that stuff. I just wanted to bring up something I noticed that as a new GM and still fairly new to playing TTRPGs, I thought was kind of cool. There is a moment in the latest episode of Critical Role, where Brendan Lee Mulligan, who's DMing, asked the party of 4 they could do an investigation check or a nature check. And they were going to examine what was going on around this statue in this underground temple. And 3 of the characters immediately grabbed their die and just rolled it. Just instinctually, Brennan called for a check, and they said, we want to check. We want to roll dice. And it was interesting. Matt did not. Matt Mercer's character, Julian, did not. And I was like, oh, and I kind of noticed it when I was watching. And then Abria, who's at the table, very much noticed it because I think it was the second time it had happened. And she's like, are you going to roll your dice? And Matt gave her I'm not going to. And you could tell in his eyes, he's not doing that because he's so locked into his character. And I thought that was a cool thing to maybe, if you're a player, take to your table. Get into your character. Like what are they into throughout the course of the night? What are they doing? What are they not doing? Matt was like, Julian wouldn't investigate this statue. He does not care about this statue. He doesn't care about what they find on it. I'm not saying the person Matt doesn't care. Matt loves the story and loves lore and all that stuff, but his character would not have done it. So he did not roll at all. And I thought that was great because pretty much any table I've been at, when the DM asks for a roll, everyone's rolling. In fact, I've been at a lot of tables where the DM has asked one person to make a perception check and everyone's rolled. One person make an insight check and everyone's rolling and yelling numbers. I just thought it was really cool and something to take away from it as a player who's into character. What would your character do? When the DM asks for a check, it doesn't mean you have to do it. You can say, like, you know what? Me personally would love to know it, but I don't think my character's there. I don't think my character's doing that. I just thought it was a really cool, just a little observation for one of the things Matt's doing as a player that I think is very creative and makes him a very fun person to watch involved in Dungeons and Dragons. All right, thanks for checking out the video. Tell a friend. Subscribe to the video. Like it. And if you don't, still tell a friend that maybe will like it. All right, thanks for watching. I appreciate it.